You know that feeling when you're so deep into burnout that all the high stress, all the drama, it just kind of stops? And what's left is just this quiet nothingness? It's a really confusing feeling, right? But it turns out there's a very clear reason your brain goes flat when it's been pushed way too far.
I mean, really think about it. That feeling where you know you should be feeling something, maybe stress or excitement or even just motivation, but it's like all the channels are off the air. It's this weird, hollow sensation that, honestly, can be way more unsettling than the stress itself.
And this quote right here, it just gets to the absolute heart of the matter. That numbness, it isn't a sign that you're broken or that you've stopped caring. It's actually a profound, built-in survival tactic. Your brain is simply trying to protect itself. Okay, so let's dive into this a little deeper because this quietness, it's not just some abstract feeling. It comes with very real, very practical costs that can trickle down into every single part of your life. You know, what's so sneaky about this numbness is how it all connects like a chain reaction. When you're in this depleted state, the work you used to love can suddenly feel totally pointless. The people you're closest to might feel like they're on the other side of a thick pane of glass. And maybe the most frustrating part of all, even when you try to rest, it doesn't actually recharge you. Why? Because your nervous system has been on high alert for so long, it's basically forgotten how to trust that recovery is even possible. And this brings us to probably the single most important shift we have to make in our thinking. Our first instinct is almost always to blame ourselves, right? But that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what is actually going on inside our own heads. Just look at this comparison here. On the left, you've got the story we usually tell ourselves. I'm just being lazy, or this is some kind of failure of my character, or ugh, I'm just being so irrational. But the biological reality over on the right, it tells a completely different story. It is not laziness. It's a depleted system. It's not a character flaw. It's a flashing red light signaling overload. And it's not irrational at all. It's a survival tactic. So if it's not some moral failing, then what in the world is it? Well, the answer is in the science. To really get why your brain does this, we need to talk about a totally predictable biological response called conservation mode. The core idea here is actually pretty simple. When stress isn't just a temporary sprint, but it becomes this long, drawn-out marathon, your brain realizes, hey, I can't keep this high alert state going forever. It has to start cutting costs to avoid a total system meltdown. So what exactly is conservation mode? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like the low-power mode on your phone. It's a really smart, adaptive state your brain enters to reduce how much energy it's using when resources are critically low. And how does it save all that energy? Well, it starts turning down the dials on the most expensive processes. Motivation, which, pushes us to use energy, takes a nosedive. That sense of reward or pleasure you get from doing things becomes muted, so you don't chase after them so hard. And your emotional range narrows. Why? Because big emotions, both the good and the bad ones, are incredibly expensive for your brain to produce. And that right there, that's the numbness. Okay, so now that we get the why, we can finally talk about a much healthier response than just trying to power through it. This isn't about forcing the feelings back. It's about changing the data you're feeding your brain. See, the goal was never for your brain to become a flat line. That was just a temporary emergency fix. The real path forward is to start feeding your brain new information, data that basically tells it, okay, the crisis is passing, it's safe to start powering things back up again. So here are 3 really concrete steps to start doing that. First, you have to reframe the signal. Every time you feel that numbness creep in, just tell yourself, this is a signal about my workload, not a verdict on my character. Second, restore predictability. Don't go chasing some huge, inspiring project. Instead, focus on small, consistent acts of rest. And third, retrain your reward system. You've got to start reintroducing tiny, low-effort pleasures into your day to gently wake that system back up. And this brings us to what is, I think, the most empowering part of this whole thing. This numb state, it's not permanent. It's a pattern, it's a loop, and that means it's something you can actually train. This quote just nails the entire mindset shift. The moment you stop judging yourself for being in this state and you start seeing it as a trainable biological loop, you take your power back. You go from being a victim of this feeling to being an active participant in your own recovery. And really, that's the biggest takeaway here. Knowledge is power. Simply understanding that your brain is just entering a predictable conservation mode makes the whole experience way less frightening, less mysterious, and a whole lot more manageable. You know what's happening, and you actually have a roadmap for what to do next. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one question. Let's forget the big picture for just a second. What is one small, low-cost pleasure you can reintroduce into your life today? Seriously, it could be 5 minutes of music, a cup of tea without your phone nearby, or just stepping outside for a deep breath of fresh air. That's it. That's where the retraining begins.